What makes a plan comprehensive? And as we go through this, understand that these are elements that I have synthesized from 40 years of practice. I can't send you another reference book other than mine called Community Planning, An Introduction to the Comprehensive Plan, that covers this, but I'm going to explain the logic of this today, and you may just file it in your mind and not need to look elsewhere. There are three elements that make a plan comprehensive. First, it should cover the entire planning jurisdiction. I'll talk a little more about that. It should address all the physical elements within that jurisdiction, and it should deal with a relatively long time period. We'll talk about those pieces one at a time. Here is a map of the area served by the Atlanta Regional Commission, and it shows the many planning jurisdictions laid out within the Atlanta Regional Commission, each of which has its own planning responsibility. Creating a comprehensive plan for the whole Atlanta region would be a nightmare. It might be fun, it might be interesting. I wouldn't want to do it because it would become so politically and technically complex. Bemidji, Minnesota. And here again, I picked a community where we can show you the whole plan on the screen, but this does one thing that I really like. I said we should cover the entire planning jurisdiction. Well, as a starting point, if you're a city, that includes everything in the city limit. Bemidji, Minnesota got this right. Their plan includes not only the areas within the city, which are just shown in gray here. There's another version that shows more detail for those, but it also shows the future annexation areas, areas that it plans to take into the city. Well, that's part of this idea of including the whole geographic area for which the community has planning responsibility. Now, some communities do separate plans for their downtowns, for individual neighborhoods, around airports or something. Those are very useful, but they're not comprehensive. What we're looking for here is a plan that covers the whole community. And let me give you a simple example. Let's say you do a community, to create neighborhood plans for a community, and you create a whole bunch of separate neighborhood plans and say, okay, we can piece all those together and that will give us the community plan. You've got a problem. Where is the waste disposal site going to go? No neighborhood will want that. Frankly, where is the Walmart going to go? Even though people vote with their feet to shop at Walmart, many neighborhoods don't want Walmart. So where are those big box stores going to go? The comprehensive plan has to answer some of those tough questions and has to deal with the entire geographic jurisdiction. The comprehensive plan also needs to deal with all of the physical elements involved in the community. Here we have a transportation plan from Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's one of the physical elements. Future utilities are another of the physical elements, and here we have plans for sewers in a particular part of a community in Connecticut. Those are part of the physical future of the community. Here we have a plan for a particular park in Salem, Oregon. Well, certainly the parks plan is part of the physical future of the community, as well as trails plans, pedestrian linkages, and all sorts of things like that, as well as private land use. And part of the purpose of the comprehensive plan is to mesh those things together so that if we're going to have a Walmart in a particular location, we have adequate road capacity to serve that location. We don't want a Walmart sitting out there. Now, frankly, Walmart won't let that happen. They won't come in if you're not going to do that. But we often see new land uses that come into a location that don't have all the facilities needed to serve it. Or a new elementary school that bears no relationship to neighborhoods. So the private land uses, here we have a neighborhood, actually one where I used to live, private land uses, and then all these public facilities need to fit together. Malls, which may or may not be popular these days, but they're still around, they still serve a purpose. Downtowns, all of these pieces need to make sense. And the long-range plans for transportation need to fit together, and they all need to fit into a pattern. Now, one thing I don't have on the slides, but that's important to talk about, is this idea of a long-range perspective. How long is long range? Over a period of years, one thing we've discovered, and this is not just coming from me, this is coming from a lot of planning practice, is that 20 years is a pretty good bet. That's basically one generation, to try to think one generation ahead. I worked on a planning project for a government agency years ago, and they said they needed 50 years of population projections. And we used 3 different methods to do these. I'll come back to this in a minute. But for the first 20 years, the 3 methods charted pretty close together. After that, they just went like this, and there was no particular pattern. It became unpredictable, didn't make a lot of sense. So a 20-year planning horizon is pretty good. But what we're trying to get away from is the idea of communities making decisions 1 year at a time. Oh, we'll build 2 more blocks of that street this year and make this neighborhood happy. We'll build part of a new park this year and make this neighborhood happy. You may have to build a park in pieces. You almost certainly have to build a new road in pieces. But they need to be planned so that long term we know how they fit into a larger perspective. That's what we're looking for in looking at that 20-year time horizon. A number of years ago, it was very popular to do plans for 2020. I mean, that was catchy. We have 2020 vision. That's a nice, catchy title. So there were people in 1998 doing plans for 2020. There were people in 2002 and 2003 doing plans for 2020 because it was catchy. No, that's not exactly 20 years, but what we're looking for is roughly a 20-year time horizon. So we're looking for a plan for that whole geographical jurisdiction, for all the physical elements within it, and for a relatively long time horizon, probably about 20 years.